Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name's Ivana Herenque if you're new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is Monday, February the 14th, which means it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to you and to yours. And you might be struggling a little bit this morning if maybe you stayed up a little bit too late watching that game last night. So this is your reminder that you need to go out and get your flowers or chocolate or whatever you need to pick up. Today, I thought it would be fun to have a little Valentine's Day centric conversation with UAB researcher and assistant professor, Dr. Lizzy Davis. We're going to talk a little bit about the science behind chocolate here. So, Lizzy, this is just something this is fun to talk about because it's Valentine's Day. We're probably all stuffing our faces with that chocolate as well, but there's a little bit more of a science behind this instead of just unwrapping our little candies in our box here.
Yeah, definitely so. This is kind of a newer topic, I would say. A lot of the science behind chocolate is something that is brand new and we're still figuring it out. So everything that I'm going to say is kind of like it's on the cusp. It's brand new information. You'll hear me say a lot of, we don't know this yet, but we think this might be the thing. This might be the case. So just to kind of give you an overview of some of this information about science about chocolate. So chocolate actually comes from a tree. A lot of times people will say, there's a common meme that you might find on social media where it says, chocolate comes from a tree, so do vegetables, and so I'm eating vegetables and because they're eating chocolate. And while that's a great and funny meme, it's not actually necessarily a tree that you're eating salad or vegetables, but chocolate is a plant-based food. So it starts out from a tree called the Theobroma cacao. That's a mouthful. But this tree can be found and it's grown in the areas around the equator. So if we think back to like elementary school, we think the equator runs horizontally around the globe. So the areas right above the equator and the areas right below the equator and then the equator itself, that's where you're going to find this tree. So the tropical areas. And what we do is we harvest the pods that grow on this tree. So it actually grows fruit. It kind of looks a little bit like a darker mango on the outside in the sense of it's kind of like oblong in shape. And we harvest those from the trees. And the entire process from cutting it down from the tree to getting it into a form that we can actually eat it is very, very complex. And just like the science behind it is ever changing and evolving. A lot of people are into like roasting coffee beans and that sort of thing. It's a similar process in that it's a combination of science and art. And we're still trying to make it figure out what makes that ideal end product, what methods go into that, and also how to make the economy surrounding chocolate sustainable. So I'm going to give you like the overview of this is how you kind of make chocolate, but just know that if you're a chocolate connoisseur that's really into this, I'm giving you like 3,000 feet level. So what you do is you harvest it from the trees. You cut down these pods from the trees, and within each pod, you'll find something called a cacao bean or a cocoa bean. You can say either one. And what these beans look like is they're little circular beans. And you go through a fermentation process with them. So a lot of times people think fermentation it creates alcohol. It's really just a chemical reaction that occurs between the sugars and some enzymes. So it goes through this process, but this process is important because it gives chocolate its flavor, that tanniny, rich flavor, complex flavor. So it needs to go through this process. Once it goes through that process, we dry out the beans and we roast them. So just like we roast coffee beans, we roast chocolate beans. They start off white and then you throw them in a really big oven and they come out dark brown. And so you roast those, you grind them up, and that gives you kind of like a final product. And that final product is called chocolate liquor. But I want to be clear in saying that chocolate liquor is non alcoholic. So don't confuse this with like your Bailey's, that kind of thing. This is chocolate liquor, but it's the purest form of chocolate that you can get.
No, it's just like a powder at this point.
Yeah, so great question. It's actually a mixture of cocoa powder and cocoa butter. So you might know those ingredients separately, but it's that chocolate liquor is a mixture of both of those ingredients, the chocolate powder and the chocolate butter. So you can separate them. But that's essentially how chocolate gets from its raw state, being a plant based food, to a form that you could eat. Now, I will say, you can buy raw chocolate in the store, but it's going to taste very, very bitter. Imagine tasting something like coffee grounds. It would taste similar to that. No one wants to eat coffee grounds. Probably no one wants to eat raw sugar, raw chocolate too. It's funny because when I found out I was doing this presentation, I was talking to my husband about it. He's a first grade teacher. And we came up with an activity for the kids to actually do like a chocolate experiment. And so they went through the different types of chocolates, started out with raw chocolate, and they tasted each one. And every single one of them, rightfully so, went straight to the trash can to just get rid of that. They did not want it. They threw it away. They said, this is not tasting good. So we would probably do the exact same things. Our taste buds aren't more mature in that sense. The raw chocolate is very, very bitter and very tanniny tasting.
I have very vivid memories of growing up, and my mom has this amazing chocolate pie recipe, and we would get the baking chocolate,
Yeah.
which is essentially that raw chocolate. And I remember very vividly of, her obviously saying, "Don't eat that," and me obviously eating it, and not being very surprised, not enjoying it. And as somebody who could eat sugar for every meal, I
Yeah.
was very disturbed by that. So I understand where that is going. So how do we take that? How do we take that chocolate liquor, that not great tasting product, and make it into the chocolate that most of us know and love today?
Yeah, so great question. You're exactly right. What you're talking about, the baking chocolate, that is chocolate in its rawest form. So how you get to from that gross tasting chocolate from something that we actually want to go out and buy for our loved ones on Valentine's Day is just the addition of simple ingredients. So there's three main types of chocolate people usually buy. So dark chocolate is one of them, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. So I'll kind of go through each one. So if you start off from chocolate in its raw form, think the baking chocolate, the chocolate liquor, raw chocolate, all the same thing. So when you start with that and you add in some sugar, that's going to give you dark chocolate. And so, if you were to actually go to the grocery store, I'll kind of cover up the brand here, but if you were to go to the grocery store, I have a bar of chocolate here. I'm surprised this hasn't been eaten yet. If you buy dark chocolate, it usually has some kind of percentage on the top of it. So it might be 95%, 70%. You can buy many different types of percentages. But what that percentage is showing you right there is how much of that raw chocolate is comprised in that bar. So the higher percentage that you have, the higher percentage of that raw chocolate. And you can kind of assume that if you have more raw chocolate, you're going to have less sugar that's added to it. With that, keep in mind comes the taste. You're going to have more of that raw sugar or raw chocolate, tanniny, bittery taste, the higher you go up in percentages. So dark chocolate is really just that raw chocolate plus sugar. Milk chocolate. When I learned about this, I was like, why did I not know this? Because this seems so obvious. But milk chocolate is really just the raw chocolate plus sugar plus milk. So, because it's more ingredients, you're having less of that raw chocolate, that raw chocolate liquor. But it's just the addition of sugar and milk. So, dark chocolate doesn't have milk, milk chocolate naturally does have milk. Makes sense. And then the last one is white chocolate. And I feel like this is the one that has the biggest, I don't know, myth behind it. I hear a lot of times people will say white chocolate isn't real chocolate, or white chocolate isn't white chocolate, or doesn't have chocolate in it. And it's kind of true, but it's kind of not true. So if you remember back, I told you that the rawest form of chocolate is called chocolate liquor. And that's a combination of two things, the cocoa powder and the cocoa butter. So two things, those both make raw chocolate. White chocolate is just the cocoa butter. So it doesn't include the cocoa powder, just the cocoa butter plus milk plus sugar. So it does contain some components of that raw form of chocolate. But really, the differences between all these chocolates are what the additive is to it and what are we adding to the composition of the chocolate base, and then how much of this raw chocolate are we including. So that's really the differences between all of those different types of chocolates.
I I have to say, Lizzie, I didn't know that I was going to really learn a lot today. I thought this was going to be a fun conversation, and I've learned so much, and this is so interesting. I've really am a little bit shocked, honestly, at this and about this kind of process from growing to, consuming and to buying. So I have to ask you though, how did chocolate become such a symbol of romance, of dating, of Valentine's Day? We have all heard, maybe, I don't know if it's true, if it's a myth, I'm sure you can tell us, that you get endorphins from eating chocolate. Is that true? And if so, is that what really connected chocolate to Valentine's Day?
Yeah, so it's so funny. When we think about Valentine's Day, a lot of us think, what kind of chocolate am I going to get this year? With flowers or, whatever, or putting something together for your loved one. Um, but how that came about is kind of like the perfect storm, a little bit in a way. So the combination of a few things happening all together made chocolate become associated with Valentine's Day. So cocoa beans, those do contain some naturally occurring chemicals. And those two chemicals are two big fancy science words, not that important, but I'll tell you them anyways. They're tryptophan and phenylethylamine. So two big mouthfuls. And these two naturally occurring chemicals in cocoa beans are connected to things like improved mood, happiness, making you feel energized. So they're all very positive feelings. In fact, both of those two things, chocolate, cocoa beans, are kind of termed the love drug. Because when you think about when you're in love with someone, and I hope everyone's been able to experience that, whether it's your kid or, your mom, your dad, whatever. But when you have love, when you feel those feelings associated with love, you are happier. You are more energized. You do have a better mood. Those things that are also connected to those two chemicals. And so that is why people have termed cocoa beans or chocolate into the love drug. So take that. We'll kind of put that to the side for a second. Also, chocolate started off as being consumed like a drink. So something like coffee or tea, that's how chocolate started off. We didn't eat chocolate at first. We drank it. It was very bitter because it came from that raw form of chocolate. And it was viewed as a delicacy. So really only the rich could afford to have this chocolate drink. It was a lavish gift. It was something that, when you think about giving a gift to someone, you want to typically give them something that's desired, or something that they're really wanting. And so that's how it became a gift, is because it had this delicacy aura about it. People desired it. And so when you so that's how it became associated with a gift. There was a man, Richard Cadbury, and I'm sure that last name kind of makes people's ears perk up a little bit, because it sounds familiar. Same guy who you might be thinking of associated with those Cadbury eggs. And he is from Britain, and his family manufactured the drinking chocolate that I talked about. And he was looking for a way to make his processing, his manufacturing, more efficient and more palatable, because I mentioned it was really bitter. And what he came up with was something called eating chocolates. This is the first time chocolate had been associated with something that we actually eat, which obviously now we do on a regular basis. And he was a marketing genius, and he started packaging these eating chocolates in a heart-shaped box. And once he did that, people would save the box. They would put like love letters, mementos, that sort of thing in the box. So it was something that they'd keep onto forever, something you'd gift to somebody, because again, it was a delicacy. And the only error that he made, in my opinion, was he didn't patent the heart-shaped box. And so once Valentine's Day became more commercialized, especially in the United States, this heart-shaped box really took off. And Russell Stover is now probably a company that is sort of known for it. You go to anywhere that sells chocolate around Valentine's Day, and you will find those Russell Stover's Valentine's Day boxes. Those are the ones that you're kind of guessing whether or not you like the insides or not. You're just taking a bite of it. It could be cherries, it could be nougat. You never know what you're going to get. But they kind of took the heart-shaped box and went off with it. So you can see that it kind of started off from the composition of chocolate was a science. It was the love drug. And then from a few other things happening, it has now become associated with Valentine's Day. I probably told you more than you wanted to know.
No, that's fascinating. We've got the science of it, the love drug science, and with a little bit of creative marketing. And then that's how you get the product that we all, again, most of us, I'm going to say, know and love. That's fascinating too about the patent here, because I think we all know that Cadbury name. We also all know that Stover name, Russell Stover name. Yes. And you look at it as, again, chocolate sounds like such a fun business, but at the end of the day, it's a business. Yeah. And somebody seized an opportunity that heart-shaped box was not patented. That's fascinating. Lizzy, I'm looking at a comment here, and Charles, I'm going to say, Charles, you know me too well. I have several dogs, and he says, look, keep in mind, don't leave out your chocolate because it can hurt your dog. So Charles, great tip there. If you got chocolate from your honey, or if you just got it for yourself, good for you. Don't leave it out. Make sure those dogs cannot get it. I think that a lot of us, I've been in that spot before, and it is not fun. So make sure you put that up as well. Lizzy, I have to know, is dark chocolate, though, any better for us? We've all heard that rumor that maybe it's a little better. And it sounds like, in my very non-scientific mind, that the dark chocolate is a little bit closer to the root, to the plant-based form of chocolate. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that means it's a little bit better for us.
Yeah, so this is one I hear all the time, especially if I'm counseling clients or something like that. They'll always ask me, I'm going to switch over to dark chocolate. Is that healthier? So the first thing I'll say is the term healthy is very, very subjective. So one thing that's healthy for me could be unhealthy to somebody else. So what I mean by that is, peanuts. That's a good source of protein that might be healthy to somebody else. But if I'm allergic to peanuts, that's not healthy for me. That's deadly for me. And so I want to make sure we're starting off on like the same foundation. When I'm going to toss the word healthy around here, I'm talking about the composition of the chocolates and its impact on our bodies. So I'll talk about like some different nutrients, some different components of chocolate, and the health benefits that are associated to it. So that's what I mean when I say healthy, when I toss that around here. So you are correct when you say the healthiest kind of chocolate is dark chocolate. And that's because it's in its most raw form, assuming that you're not actually going to eat that baker's chocolate that your mom used to keep around for her cake. Because that realistically, it's not a desirable treat. It's too bittery. And so the type of chocolate that you're probably going to eat is that dark chocolate. Has more of that chocolate liquor, higher percentage, and without the addition of as much sugar and milk. So if you're looking for a healthier type of chocolate, remember, look at that package for the dark chocolate and look for a higher percentage, because that's going to tell you this has less sugar. It has more of that raw form of chocolate. And with that raw form of chocolate comes more of those health benefits that are associated with that raw form of chocolate. Because remember, it is a plant-based food, so it does have a lot of those healthy nutrients that are associated typically with plant-based foods. So one of these health benefits is that it does contain a naturally occurring chemical called antioxidants, specifically a type of antioxidant called a flavonoid or flavonoid. And what that has been shown in literature and research is that it does have some kind of relationship with lowering blood pressure, the risk of stroke, and coronary heart disease. And so remember, when I'm talking about the raw form here, so the raw form of chocolate has been shown to have flavonols, and it can have an impact on lowering that blood sugar, lowering your risk of stroke, and lowering your risk for coronary heart disease. There's also two other things that I find really interesting, in that there's some recent studies that have suggested, I want to be clear that they're not conclusive. They're suggesting this, in that chocolate in its rawest form does have magnesium. And so when a woman is in the premenstrual phase, she's craving chocolate. And it might be because she's actually craving that magnesium that her body is naturally wanting more of at that specific stage of her month. In addition, pregnant women, typically they're at higher risk for lower iron because their blood volume is expanding, and so they need more iron. And chocolate in its rawest form has a good source of iron. And so women might be craving chocolate, right? We've all heard that before. I can attest to that, as I am currently pregnant. And why women crave that chocolate is because perhaps it has that higher content of iron. So there's some studies that are connecting chocolate to these specific nutrients and these specific chemicals. Some things are still in the works, though, definitely still being studied. There are over 300 naturally occurring chemicals in chocolate, and we haven't even started studying them all. And so more to come on that in the next decades or so, to see what other health benefits can be associated with chocolate. But I do want to mention again that when I'm talking about this chocolate, it's in the health benefits associated with it, it's really talking about that raw form of chocolate. And of course, the further you get away from the raw form, going from dark chocolate to milk chocolate to white chocolate, the less and less of those health benefits that you're going to get. The more things that are added to it, like the milk and the sugar, those are kind of offsetting some of those health benefits that we see with the raw chocolate. Not to rain on anyone's parade. Today is Valentine's Day. Enjoy your chocolate. I'm just saying, if you are looking to chocolate to get more iron, to up your iron intake, there are much better sources out there than chocolate. So.
Well, Lizzy, I hope that you and your baby use your excuse of being pregnant as the excuse to eat all the chocolate that you need in the next few months before he gets here. I hope y'all use that excuse every single day
Yeah.
because you deserve it. Lizzy, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for coming today and explaining the science behind chocolate, the process, and giving us a little bit of a excuse here. We can say we need a little more magnesium or a little more iron and make ourselves feel a little bit better about that indulgence. So Lizzy, again, thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody watching. I hope you have a great one, and I hope you get a little bit of those health benefits that we talked about from that chocolate. So again, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.